Good morning and welcome to another exciting edition of Day 4 with the man, Frank SCALISH.
Don't ask me why.
I like it. We got it. You got the BTL shirt on. I got the Shad Week shirt on. We're supporting each other's.
I know. Dude, I love that Shad Week shirt.
It's a good week. It's a good shirt. I told you, like, I literally ordered it using the BTL discount on LureNet. And it came in like 2 days, and I ordered it like when it went live. I had the open coming up on Logan Martin.
Gotcha.
And I was on a real good shad spawn bite. Like the last day of practice, I was going down the riprap. I pulled out the 3/4 ounce War Eagle and just jammed like a 3 3/4 pound largemouth. And the next cast had one knock it, and it was like, got my stretch, the shad were up there, and I'm like literally got back from practice that day. It was the last half day, and I pull this shirt out, I fold it all nice, I put it with my shorts because I'm a little in the morning, so I like to know exactly what I'm gonna wear.
I do exactly the same thing,
and so I did that at probably like 3 or 4, and then ding, I get the message from Bass, like boat 168. I was.
You might as well gone out at noon.
I blew a gasket, and if you listen to the Open Pros Pick'em or any of the BTLs, especially even up at Champlain, I was boat 130 something on day one. I was boat 138 out of 145 on day one. I have not been above boat 158 in 6 consecutive tournaments now. Anyway, I was like, what are the one? Of course, I get there. There's 2 boats on the stretch. It's bright sun, not a shad to be seen. All I had was visions of Shad Week shirt and just boat flipping bigs on a War Eagle.
Dude, that's so funny. How about this, dude? I usually always draw middle of the pack or end of the pack. Okay. Mm-hmm. One time I drew boat number 1 and I literally had nowhere to go. The one time I was hoping to get like last flight so I get an extended day, I have nowhere to go, and I drew out in boat number 1. I was like, this is perfect.
I mean, it doesn't sound like it's that big a deal because like, oh, well, you get early the second day. Well, if you have 5 days of practice and they get blistered on the first day, it's a 220 boat tournament,
it makes a big difference.
It's just over and over and over and over again, and then you're from behind the 8 ball.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference unless you're structure fishing and you got some sneaky stuff found.
Certain times, like, smallmouth, give me middle of the pack every single time in smallmouth 100%. Tournaments. Doesn't matter where you start. It 100%. Gives you the perfect length of the day each day, or give me, I would rather be last boat in a smallmouth tournament and then first boat, because then you get it dialed in and then you go straight to the nuts on the second day.
100%, dude. And you could make it happen, especially on the northern fisheries and the Great Lakes. You could make the smallmouth bite. You could make it happen in a short amount of time. The only thing with the big water is the wind. I mean, time could get if it's windy, the time could kill you.
What's the shortest amount of time you've ever fished in a smallmouth tournament? Like, as far as you knew, I'm only going to get X amount of time because of the grueling run. Because you heard, like, we're right in the middle of smallmouth season. We just completed the Elite Series swing up north. The BPT was a couple weeks ago. Like all these long runs, especially in the Elite Series, where they just took out a Waddington last week, and you saw so many guys run to the lake.
Yeah. Last day in Buffalo.
Okay.
I had a little over 3 hours of fishing time. And that
out of a 8.5, 9 hour day.
Yeah. I didn't know. It got so rough. I didn't know how long it was going to take to get back. It was rough in the morning when we left. And I timed the morning run because it was like 3 to 5s. The lake was supposed to lay down. It never laid down. In fact, it got worse. It was 9 to 12 footers. And I could not use my time run in the morning for anything because it was vastly different by the afternoon. Well, hell, it got bad the minute I got to my first spot. It was already 9-footers solid.
9, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
9. And then that day they recorded 11 to 12s that day.
And they took you out. They let you go.
Well, because here was the forecast. It was like 4 to 5s in the morning or 2 to 5s in the morning, and it was supposed to subside to 1 to 3s by the afternoon. But the wind never shifted. It stayed hard out of the west. In fact, it got even harder out of the west. By the time I got to my first spot, my first waypoint, it was already monster waves bigger than anything I've ever been in. And so I was like, I don't know how long it's going to take to get back. Like legitimately didn't know. And you know, I left a little bit earlier than I wanted to, but thank God I did, because it took me every second of that to get back. I made it to the weigh-in, to the check-in boat with like 30 seconds to spare. So, you know, but it was brutal. But like I said, you know, you do all the damage. Once you find them, you can fish for them. But if you had to find them in that shit, you'd never find them. Because you can't. It's impossible. It's too arduous. You're paying attention to the waves. You can't find little tiny isolated stuff because you're bouncing all over the place. Your transducer cone angles changing all the time. So, you know, there's a lot to that. I mean, there's a lot to that. There's so much shit. There's so much variables in the tournament game that people don't see. Like you'll see a great angler throw up a terrible day and you're like, oh man, he really shit the bed on that. But the reality of it is you don't know if he broke down, you don't know if he hit something, you know, you don't know anything that happened in the day except for at the end of the day you see a weight.
Yeah.
And it makes a difference. It makes a huge difference.
Well, did you hear what happened to Polinick at Champlain on day one?
No.
I mean, dude, remember the last 2 times ago when they were there, you know, he landed on the mother lode. He was catching 4 3/4 every cast. It was magical. It was crazy. Well, he comes in with 13 pounds and is in 100th place on day one at Champlain. You're like, well, what the hell happened there? Bad decision making. His live wells pump went out, had 5 fish in the box for 15 pounds. Goes back to freaking check his fish. All 5 are dead. He's done. He gets a 4-ounce penalty for each one. He weighs in 13.5 pounds on day one. He comes in with almost 20 on day 2 and still finishes like 95th.
Yeah, I mean, Champlain this year was a freak show, dude. Champlain's one of my all-time favorite lakes on the planet.
Largies are back.
Yeah, and see, and here, truth. I never went there and ever fished for largemouth. Never. If I found them smallmouth fishing, and they were usually mixed in. And it was a bonus because, you know, the largemouth get a little bit bigger. But with the smallmouth, if you're on a size class, you're on a size class. You know, you're not going to catch a 1.5 pound largemouth on one flip, and the next flip you're going to catch a 5. That's just not how the smallmouth game works. If you're on the right fish, it's all pretty much predictable on size that you're going to catch. But yeah, it's crazy, man. It's that lake's phenomenal.
I found you were talking about that run on Erie, and this was one of the first tournaments that I covered. You remember this one, the one that Coda ran all that way?
Yeah, I called him after that tournament. Actually,
that fish has seen better days, but
yeah, that true to word. True.
We'll just scroll past that. So I have this. I was reading this while you were talking about your run. Said this was on Thursday. Said Thursday presented the worst weather of the tournament so far. Lake Erie, the 10th largest lake in the world, a 10-mile-an-hour wind creates a problem. When the wind kicked up to over 15 miles an hour on day one, Kiriyama had only 90 minutes to catch his fish and make it safely back to the harbor. He still managed to catch 21 pounds in 90 minutes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, and here they downplayed the weather so bad for our event because because theoretically we should have never left.
Yeah, they're way better about that now.
Pardon me?
They're way better about that now. Like, it used to be a little bit Wild West as far as like, hey, figure it out, be safe by yourself, you're pros, handle the
right
lightning and 8-footers.
Yeah, exactly. But you know, the reality of it is that they were wrong with the forecast on all 3 days of that event. The wave forecast was so blatantly wrong, it was unbelievable. You know, the second day of that Buffalo tournament, that lake was as flat as a driveway. I mean, there wasn't a ripple on the lake. And the first day was brutal, and the second day was flat as glass, and the third day was the scariest crap I've ever seen in my life. So yeah, I mean, that's Lake Erie at its finest right there.
It is. I don't think we've done this topic that we're going to talk about today. It is actually, it is a recorded show today. I am plying my trade in the mysterious waters of Leech Lake in the Bassmaster Open.
Beauty.
Ideally, I have about 23, right now I have about 23 pounds of smallmouth in the box.
That's ideal.
I have found a magic boulder that they're aggressive and willing. Or I've had like 3 just crazy big frog blow ups, and I'm like, my God, I've got a 20-pound satchel of largemouth.
Or you've got 4 muskies by this point and are ready to come home.
Yeah. I said the reality is it's probably somewhere between those two extremes. With it,
I've never seen the lake before.
Neither have I.
Which is so cool, dude. Going to a new body of water is one of the coolest things ever.
It is. We have done several day 4 shows on breaking down new bodies of water. You can find that just by going to the day 4 index, typing in keywords like breaking down a new body of water to listed to that. But it is the dog days of summer. We are towards the end of August. It has been hot across much of the country. It will be hot across much of the country for the next month.
Yeah, at least.
But knowing you, inclement or hot weather has never kept you off the water before. No. You were like, dude, let's do a show about catching fish when it is just
impossible,
insanely hot outside. The dog days of summer. So that's what we're going to talk about today.
Perfect. So first of all, like everything I hear, even in the wintertime and stuff like that, you hear all these myths, you know, and I'm not going to get into wintertime myths because we're doing dog days of summer, but the summertime myth is the bass get lethargic and lazy. They don't feed, you know, they don't eat as much, blah, blah, blah. Well,
you got to fish them deep and slow.
Right. That is entirely not true. At the warmer the water temperature, the higher the bass metabolism. The bass actually uses more energy. The more energy a bass uses, the faster it digests food. The faster it digests food, the more frequently they have to eat. So let's just cut the crap. That's a myth. Okay. So why is it so hard to catch them then? Right. Because if they're feeding, and they're actively feeding, so why can't you catch them? Or why is it hard to catch them? First thing we have to do is we kind of got to understand exactly what's happening. All right. So we'll break it down. I'll break it down pretty easy for you. If the thermoclines are strong, they're insanely well defined. There literally is almost no oxygen below the thermocline. You're never going to find a bass below the thermocline. That's pretty much structure fishing 101. But here's what's happening. The bait fish are all starting their preparation for their fall migration. So now you have all this bait in the system that is now suspending, and they're gathering. Okay. They'll be in small, tight balls of shad here and there. Eventually, as summer progresses and you get more towards fall, you're going to have giant bait balls. All right. But this is the beginning of it. It usually, where I live, it usually occurs around the second week in August. All of a sudden, The bass are starting to suspend off the structure. They're not relating to that bottom, to the cover or the structure.
Which is what makes it so difficult.
Which is what makes it so difficult. So what you have here is you have basically your ecosystem is changing. Your ecosystem's changing towards a fall deal. Okay. You experience this stuff in the spring at the post spawn, where the fish are on the bank 1 minute and the next minute they're kind of all over the place and you can't really dial in on anything. That post spawn bite. But this is happening late in the summer or midsummer, where these bait fish are starting to transition. So what can we do about it? Because that's really what everybody wants to know. The easiest thing to do is to avoid it. And when I say avoid it, I don't mean don't go fishing. Okay, that's not what I mean. I mean, pick bodies of water that are least affected by this.
Okay.
And so if you have a tournament, you have to be on a lake, but we'll get into that. So if you're not tournament fishing, you pick bodies of water that are least affected. For example, rivers. Rivers are always more predictable because current is the great equalizer.
That makes so much sense. That's why the Arkansas River in Muskogee is best when it's the hottest, gnarliest, nastiest time of the year. That's when the river rats love getting out there.
100%. Current makes everything predictable and puts those bass in range for you. The next thing you could do is you could go to grass lakes. Usually in grass lakes, the ecosystem revolves entirely around that vegetation. So finding the bass suddenly becomes easier because you very rarely will find bass deeper than the deepest grass grows. Now, this is on true grass lakes, not structure lakes that have grass in it, although you can still find bass in the grass on those lakes as well, which means you don't have to run around chasing the pelagics all day. The other thing you can look for is very, very shallow lakes to fish. In super shallow lakes, the bass always relate to some form of shallow cover almost year round. Here, I'll give you an example. That we have a shallow lake by us, and it's semi-structurable, but for the most part, it's pretty shallow. Vegetation is there sometimes it's not there. So the grass isn't always predictable. I was out there in August, and to be honest with you, it was probably right around this time in August I was out there. And it was filthy hot, and it got slick as a mirage out. And I had one of the best days on that lake square billing. All I did was go around and square build channel banks. Any banks that had channels on them with blowdowns, I ran there, square build them, and I caught a lot of really, really good fish for this lake. So I avoided trying to find the fish that I couldn't catch, is what happened. I actually have videos because I shot 2 videos on this lake at that time. So I have the videos, for that.
Are they on the LureNet?
That I don't think they even ran, to be honest with you.
Oh,
I don't know if they even ran.
Didn't make the cut.
Didn't make the cut. But yeah. Okay. So what if we don't have those options? All right. Because a lot of us won't have those options. So from this time until mid-fall, to be honest with you, this is where the live scopers are going to beat your brains in, because everything's up in the system. So if you're a scoper, you're digging from now to the end of October. I mean, you're just all over it. You know what I mean? I mean, that's just a fact of the game today. It doesn't make it wrong, doesn't make it, it's just the fact of the game. If you're scoping this time of year, you're going to experience a lot of success. I mean,
but you can also do the same thing by finding those bait balls on side imaging and throwing swim baits and traps
sure,
and things through them,
sure.
just not as effective as what we have.
Right. You're basically, 100%.
Yeah.
Because that's just how it goes. I mean, I've caught fish through this period my whole entire life using nothing but 2D sonar for a long time.
Mhm.
It's totally doable. That's when I would employ a jigging spoon, and get over big balls of bait with a
Which we've
jigging
done a
spoon.
show about.
Correct. We've done a show about it. So here's what I'll do. The first thing I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to idle from the ramp straight to the lake basin.
Okay.
And the only reason I'm doing this is because I'm looking for suspended bait. I have to find what depth the bait balls want to be in. So they might be over 80 feet of water, but they might be suspending in 15 feet or 20 feet or 12 feet. I have to see where their ceiling is.
I think I know where you're going with this. This combines several other day fours. Keep going. I'm
100%.
This goes the same place I think it is.
It's going right there. So what happens here now is if let's say the bait's suspending in 15, I'm going to start my structure search at 15-foot depth range, because most likely the bass in that range are going to intercept the bait balls when they come over that structure. They may not at this point in time. You have to remember something. The depth that the bait is critical. So you could fish the right depth if you're structure fishing. But what this will do is this will eliminate a lot of wasted time looking in other depth ranges while you're trying to find structure that's holding bass at this time. Now, remember what I said earlier, the bass are starting to get off of that structure. Mm-hmm. So this pattern is a dying pattern. It is starting to change, but you're early enough where if you cover enough water, you'll find a handful of structural elements that still have bass on them. But remember, they're not going to be there for very long because they're moving. So this pattern is it's a diminishing pattern. It'll hold for a while because it's not like a light switch. They'll hold for a while, but you're going to have to cover way more structure and way more cover elements in that depth range to find fewer spots holding bass at this time. But you can still do that. The other thing I look for is current, and the other thing I look for is wind-driven areas, because this puts actively feeding bass right within your range all the time, no matter what time of year it is. So just a quick rundown of other things to look for. I'm going to look for channel banks. Channel banks have deep water access real close to them. The bass are literally a tail push away from shallower cover and the comfort zone of deeper water. They have a feeding range. They don't have to go far to feed. If the shad come by, they go up. When the shad bail, they go down. Pretty easy. You can pretty much expect channel banks are going to give you a percentage of fish bites during this period. The other thing is bluffs and bluff ends. And basically, it's for the exact same reason. Okay. Now, when you're doing the bluff ends, this time of year, I always like the up current end of the bluff that gets the current.
Can you draw that real quick? Do you have a piece of paper?
I do. So let's try to, I got to think. I'm a visual
learner here, Frank.
Yeah, I got to think how I'm doing this. Okay. So first
I would imagine it would involve some sort of water with some arrows.
Yes.
Structural element.
That's the first thing I did. So we're going to go water.
I'm just saying it's been a week or two since we've had some really good.
Oh, it's not going to be good, guys. This is going to be a rapid drawing here.
Very current, though.
It's very right.
No pun intended.
And then I'll do the water line,
Okay.
current,
Uh,
make this a pocket.
so
Bluff over here.
I heard a rumor that at the upcoming classic, you're going to have a sketch booth similar to like at the county fairs where like you sit down and they do a caricature or cartoon of your head for a small price. And
that's a rumor.
And that you're going to be able to come by and ask Frank to draw different fishing scenarios, and then he will sketch it out for you and give you that drawing.
No, that is an absolute not happening.
Oh, I thought, that's not. Sorry, I thought that was a done deal. No, I thought I could come in and be like, Frank, I would like a lay down on a bluff and ju, and then boom, you sign it.
So if we have our current going this way,
okay,
this is the up current bluff end.
Okay.
All right.
Yep.
And so this is where I'm going to target first, because the current's going to put them on there. They're going to be actively feeding on it. It's a high percentage area. And that's the reasons that I'm doing this, because now what I'm doing is I'm running and gunning, and I'm fishing high percentage areas. This way I can every time I shut my boat down, I have an opportunity to catch 1, 2, or 3 or whatever fish before I pick up and leave. I'm not going to spend 2 hours fishing it. I'm literally, I'm literally running
and gunning.
That's it. Yep. The next thing I'm going to look for is creek mouths, because this is where the bait's going to start to concentrate, tighten up. Yep. They're going to be all sitting out there waiting.
Didn't Van Dam make a career out of this time of the year, doing this exactly what you're saying with the plugs?
It could be. I mean, he's done so many things. I can't pick one out from the other, but you know what I'm saying? But the bait is going to start to concentrate on those creek mouths before they do their fall migration and go to the back of the creeks. And as summer goes on and fall starts to approach, the beauty part about these spots, more bait keeps going to them, and so does the bass. So the other thing you can do is you could target the resident bass that live in the creeks. Now these bass, because where you guys live, the creek arms are big enough, you could treat them as a completely separate lake. And those fish literally spend their most of or their whole life in that creek. The only thing they'll do is migrate from the front of it to the back of it to the middle of it, but for the most part they live there. But you have to remember something. Resident creek bass, you are absolutely not fishing for the biggest population of bass in the lake yet. And when I say yet, it's because if you go back and look at the blueback herring show and some of the shad shows, they're going to show you, those shows are a perfect representation of overlap. And at this time of year, if you want to put yourself where the most fish are, you put yourself where the most fish start to overlap. And the first overlap, believe it or not, is main lake resident fish and pelagics. They're the first to collide. Okay, that's what's starting now. So you have to keep that in your head. And I definitely recommend going back to the blueback herring and the shad shows, because it shows you the overlaps. And I have a map that shows you the overlaps, and you'll be like, oh yeah, cool. Yeah, those were really good shows. The crazy thing is, this time of year, topwaters can be outstanding, but you got to remember, this time of year with topwaters, I'm covering massive amounts of water. I am literally, I'm throwing plopper style baits, buzz baits, and like super spook one knockers, because I need baits I can cover the water really fast with and keep moving. You have to, when you're doing this topwater game, you have to have pretty much all 3 styles of baits, because the plopper style bait and the buzz bait you can fish faster than crap, and you can cover tons of water. You get an aggressive bite from the most aggressive bass. Oh yeah, good pull up there.
Dude, that's Frank Scalish day 4, number 55. There it is right there. There's your resident. There's your pelagics. Now we're looking at overlapping areas. You can go back. And, I'm shocked I was able to find that in 30 seconds.
So am I, dude. I can't believe that. You know, this is where you throw and go. You're just chucking and going and chucking and going. Now, clearly you can't do it anywhere. You got to pick the right places for it, but you all fish, so you pretty much know where you got to throw them. The cool thing about this is you will know in a very short amount of time if it's going to work for that day or not, because you'll start getting bites relatively quickly. And if you're not, then you got to do something completely, you know, an about face, which is kind of cool. I never live and die on the top water unless the day's giving it to me. And you know when it's giving it to you, because you don't go a half hour between bites. It's happening. The distinction you have to make is, do they want a walking the dog style? Do they want the plopper style where it's popping fast and loud, or do they want the buzzbait style where it's squeaky and bubbly? You got to figure out what is going to be the key bite factor, and then you can go on from there. And like I said, if it's not going to work, it's not going to work, and you'll know right away, because if you go a half hour and you don't have a bite, that top water is not happening. And so then you got to go back and you got to get a little bit more traditional. And for the scopers, you already know what you got to do. You got to start scanning and looking on your screen. The whole key with live scoping is you got to know where the bait's going to be balled up. And so understanding that they're migrating towards the creek mouths gives you a pretty good example, because if you have a section of the lake that's got 2 or 3 major creek arms in it, if you go to that section of the lake and you start scoping around, you're going to find it, because that's where all the bait is and is going right now. The cool thing is, like, I just made a massive order today on LureNet, and I did not forget today to use my.
It still blows my mind that you don't have like a person at LureNet where you just call and say, "Hey, Jim,
yeah,
shoot, this is what I need," and he goes, "Headed your way, Frank."
Well, you know, I mean, I get perks. I do get perks.
I mean, come on, Frank.
But you know, at the same time, I have massive LureNet bills. But at the same time,
that is shocking to me. That,
I know
that they're not like, Frank, you got a $50K budget, whatever you need. Well, we know you're doing videos. We know you're doing shows. We know you're doing all of our paid schemes. You're coming out with a lure a month. We'll hook you up with the goods.
So when
you're over there going, oh my God, I got the 15% off.
Yeah, but when I do,
I mean,
when I do the video stuff, I get
that.
No, but when I do videos, I get all the lures I got to do the videos with, and so I do get all that stuff. Lures I design, I can call and get for the most part. I can call and get, except like the Signature Series, limited run stuff. I got to get on and get it.
Yeah.
Because it's limited runs, and you know, if it's a catalog color, I can call up and go, hey, you know, I need 15 deep little ends in tropical shad, and I'll get them. You know what I mean? But so anyway, so I got on there because the head and spinning image is a plopper style bait, and I love the way it looks.
I saw that.
Yeah, I love the way it looks. To be brutally honest, I have never thrown one because I don't own them, but I will in 3 days have a pile of them. It's a really neat bait. If you here, I'll show you my. It's
got the body of the old spitting image,
right,
with the plopper tail on it.
Correct. But I really like the streamlined effect that bait has. And
ooh, that looks good.
Yeah, that's bluegill. My 3 favorite colors are that one, which is blue shad,
Blue
not
shad.
bluegill, blue shad, uh, black and white herring, which is the next one, and then citrus silver.
Is that it?
Yeah, and here's what citrus silver is. It's the citrus color, except I put silver scales over the shoulders, which you can't really decipher from that photo. You can't really decipher that from the photo, but it's a beautiful, beautiful bait.
Yeah.
And I think
How big is it?
um what are they?
It
4
doesn't
inches?
say on there. Yeah.
I think
So
I
it's
think
not like the giant, like
no.
whopper plopper bait that we've seen, like the big toy boat size ones.
No.
Very small and finesse. Okay.
It's really a great bait.
Yeah.
I can't wait to get them because I'll get them at the right time. I'll have them in 3 days. So
Phenomenal.
I'm really psyched. And the beautiful thing is I used my BTL 24 code for like the first time in my last 3 or 4 purchases.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, so don't forget to use that code, by the by.
That's a pretty good dog days of summer primer to put year round fish.
Yeah, I mean, when we talked about it, I was like, how far in the weeds am I going with this? Or because everybody's
different.
Everybody's geographical location is different, and everybody's area has different lakes to offer. So I figured I would just, zero it down into several different types, several different bullet points, and go from there. But it's, like I went out a couple days ago. I had a pretty good day, and it was disgustingly slick flat. It was hotter than hell, and it was slow, but at the end of the day, I had numbers, and I just methodically kept after it. You know what I mean? Just real methodically kept after it. And by the end of the day, it turned out to be a pretty good day. Even though honestly, it was balmy and miserable out.
Yeah. Now that's the other thing. We did a cold weather safety show. The same thing goes for hot weather.
Oh gosh. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Hydrate, cold, hand towels in the ice box to keep them wet, put them on the back of your neck, sun protection. And guys, if you're willing to get up early, you can be on the water by 6 and you can be off the water by 11 and you still have 5 full days. You don't have, unless you're in the tournament and you have to, there's no need to punish yourself at it. You could still employ these early in the day, later in the day. And if you're out to have fun, there's no need to be miserable.
Right. And here's the deal. Okay. The morning bite is so good, not because it's necessarily the morning. The morning bite is so good because you have something happening in the morning. You have the bass that feed at night, because there's a faction of bass that feed at night. Those feeders are now coming off and the morning feeders are now coming in. So again, you have an overlap. You have an overlap of fish. So for a brief period of time in the morning, you're going to have more fish in that zone you want to be in, until they finally separate, until the night feeders go their way and the morning feeders, once the time goes on, they split.
Same thing. You're looking overlapping fish, put yourself in the highest percentage.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the key to the game.
That's
the whole key to the game. So,
what are you doing next Friday, the 30th? Frank, you want to do a show on Friday morning, not a Thursday? So Thursday, I'll be driving back. I'm actually going up to Canada with my uncle for 3 or 4 days. Then let's do a Friday morning show.
Let's
kick the weekend off, right? Maybe a mimosa, a Bloody Mary or something to get it going.
Let me write that down. Friday the 30th. We'll go live on Friday the 30th. And I might have an announcement on that day.
Do we have the next Signature Series color that you're going to be able to announce? The Rusty Buckets on LureNet, all 600 of them. I do like that I've seen some sharing is caring going on in the comments and on the message boards of guys who are flipping and flopping months to try to get the whole connection, the whole set, which is badass to see.
Oh yeah, and I knew that was going to happen. I've got a lot of DMs from guys in a panic mode that they didn't get them, and the cool thing about this is don't freak out because guys are buying more than one, and a lot of people won't have a completed set at the end of this, but they'll be able to because you could swap, trade, buy, sell, whatever. You'll be able to get your completed set. Are we going to go live on September 5th? Do you know that offhand?
Yeah, we should be.
Okay, then that's probably when I'll be announcing the next signature color.
Yeah, we'll be live on September 5th. I'm looking at my schedule right now.
But if all things are going in sequence, the 30th, I'll have a really cool announcement on the 30th that we can go over.
I like it. I was just checking on eBay to see if anybody's putting it up there. I haven't seen anything there. I see one. I just put Frank SCALISH in on eBay, so I only see one of the color number 7, the limited edition ones up there for $20. But I was just curious if anybody was like, Rusty Buckets, $85.
But we could actually do, when it's all said and done and it's over, we could actually do a show and let some of the people chime in on the live chat.
Yeah. Also, last year we did a really cool thing. Maybe I should run by this off air. No, you're good for it. Are you good for another one signature series drawing and a call for the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame this year like you did last year, Frank?
Yes.
Strong yes, you are? Okay. That's coming up in September. So
wait, we got to talk about, you're talking about a full set?
No. Oh, I was just talking last year. Remember, you just picked one of your drawings, framed it, and sent it to the.
Oh, yeah. That.
You good with that?
Yeah, I might do something different this year.
Okay, something different, but there will be something for the BTL Day 4 listeners that they can bid. All the proceeds go to the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame auction. Yes. What I was thinking was, along with it this year, though, the winner gets to co-host a Day 4 with us.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 100%.
We good on that?
Yeah, 100%.
So far, the BTL listeners that we've done for like St. Jude and the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame, and fantastic.
Yeah,
we've had on.
Yeah, I'm totally down for that. 100%.
But we'll do a whole week and have the winner of that auction jump on to co-host Day 4.
Yeah, I'll tell you what my plan is after we get off the air.
Okay.
Then we could announce it later. But yeah, 100%. Now here's something else. I want to have Tom from Hydromotive on again.
Yep.
I want to do live callers again. Can we do that? Remember when we have the people go live with us?
Yeah. We can do that on either the 30th or the 5th.
Okay, I want to do that as well because that's so cool because we get to interact.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of fun.
I agree.
I really dig it. I mean, this show has so many opportunities surrounding it, Matt.
I know we got to get you on the water, Frank.
100%.
We got to get us on the water together too.
Even more important.
My schedule is just trashed.
I know.
We got California, Minnesota, Japan, Canada. Then I got that national championship on Grand. Then Mexico.
The Grand deal. You better be on that lake every minute.
Yeah, I'll be watching a lot of Day 4s, getting ready for that.
Outstanding.
All right, this was a good one, Frank. We married a lot of different shows together to get a good idea. The dog days of summer, catching fish when it's traditionally tough. We'll be back with the live show next Friday morning, August 30th. Until then, this has been another edition of Day 4 with the man, Frank SCALISH. See ya.
Adios.